All right, so starting 24 and 7.4, first thing they want me to do is graph 3 functions. So those functions are f of theta is 3 cosine theta, g of theta is 2 cosine theta plus 1, and h of theta is minus 3 sine of theta minus 4. Okay? So how do you graph? What's your tools? You look at these and you say, magic. Good. Yeah, look for the vertical shift and the stretch, right? So this one has what?
Stretch by 3.
Stretch by 3, no shift, right? So cosine looks like this, yeah? And now how do I refactor in the stretch?
Relabel the graph.
Yeah, relabel the graph. So that's 3, this is minus 3. Check. That one's F. Maybe arrows to continue. Cool? If I really wanted to do a nice job with this, I would maybe label some X things too. So like, really this is not an X axis though, it's a what axis? What's your input?
In units of pi.
Yeah, this is thetas, right? So this is the theta axis, right? It's just your input variable. So the thing you're inputting into this thing is thetas. And then, well, we have to count whether, or we have to decide whether we're doing degrees or radians, right?
Oh, yeah.
And of course we're doing radians, because stupid Babylonians. So this is happening at pi over 2.
Oh, because sine's at pi and 2. Right?
Pi and 2. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so how about G? Where's G? Okay, I drew a picture.
Stretch 2 up 1.
Yeah.
Okay, so you stretch 2, right? So it got 2 taller, and then you need to shift it up 1, which means it
Midline's at 1.
midline's at 1.
3 and 1.
Okay, and then it goes up to 3 and down to negative 1. And then it's a cosine, right? With no shifting of the inputs. So it's going to look like this.
Almost.
Okay, where does that happen? Yeah, good. That's at pi over 2. You guys see why I put these on different pictures? Because there was no way I was going to get the pi over 2's right and get the signs looking right on the same picture. How about this guy? So last dude, h of theta. Okay, it needs a x-axis flip. It needs a stretch by 3. So maybe I better do that first, right? Okay, so sine looks like this for usual, right? Then I stretch 3, so that's 3 and minus 3. Then you need a, which flippy do? This flippy do.
Not horizontal, but x.
So we're going to be talking this way. So we dump the other one. Okay, so there's, right now this is rocking what? What is this? What have I done so far?
The stretch.
Did this stretch and the flip, right? So this right now is minus 3 sine theta, right? And then I need a vertical shift by
4
down 4, right? So that's gonna, what? What's my picture gonna look like now?
Yeah, negative.
Okay, so the midline's gonna be at negative 4.
Yeah, it's going to be negative.
And then it's gonna go up to negative 1 and down to negative 7. And then we have to make our sine curve. Okay, cool with this? Where's this dude? sorry, where's that first bottom?
It's at pi.
It's at
So it's
pi over 2, because this was a sine.
Oh, yeah.
And we didn't fiddle with the x's at all. So if you want this crossing here, that midline crossing, that point's pi, comma, what's the y value there?
Oh,
-4, because it's on the midline.
How do you, so when you shift it on the right or left, how do you distinguish your theta values in that?
When I do the right or left shift, when I've got some garbage going in here,
Yeah.
oftentimes I'll just set it equal to where I know the crossings are on the regular one and solve. We can do one of those later today if you want.
So it was saying how to tell if they're even.
Yeah, so the next question, right? I did half of part A. Part B is, are they even or not? So what does even mean? You guys remember this?
No, I don't know this.
Okay, so even, a function's even if f of minus x is f of x. In other words, if a flip this way doesn't do anything. So if I flip this one this way,
That's even.
it's the same. So this one's even.
Next one's even.
That was f, right? G is
Even.
also even. And H is not even. Don't fall into that trap. Things are not necessarily even or odd. This one, in fact, is neither.
Oh, isn't odd f or negative f of x equals f of x? Or
Odd is f of negative x is negative f of x. So that's a horizontal flip and a vertical flip are the same. If I vertical flip this thing,
no, it's not.
right, it all ends up positive. That's not going to be what I'd get out of a horizontal flip. So this one's neither even nor odd.
We don't need for those?
Yeah, neither.
Oh, okay.
Odd nor even. Yeah, no, those don't really have a name because they're really usual. Like most things are this. It's exceptional when something's either even or odd. Maybe. So if you grab a random life form, it's a bug. Like basically all the time, right? So really we should call bugs bugs, and everything else should be called not bugs. That's kind of this, right? Like these are really the usual case, and these ones get special names because they're not the usual. That was a horrible analogy. All right, and then the last thing here is something like, use your answer to decide on conditions of A and K to ensure that f of t is A cosine t. What the hell?
Why do we have so many variables?
Yeah, they have one too many variables. That's a cool question.
Given a t, we don't know what t is.
Yeah, this is actually a super cool question because they've mistakenly asked a really. They asked a question that maybe would have been a little bit interesting in a totally bizarre way and made it kind of awesome. Okay, so they have in the book written f of t is A cosine theta plus k, right? And they want you to decide on conditions for A and k so that this thing is even. Okay?
So it's odd.
What? No.
No. I don't
No,
know.
24.
24. Even.
That's right, dude.
Okay, so I want to know, right, A's and K's that make it so that this thing is f of minus t, right? Like that would be even. But what's f of minus t? What's the, so why is Gabe complaining about there's too many variables here?
Because they renamed theta.
Oh, they have, yeah.
Well, really, they said this is a function that takes t's, right?
Yeah, that's not as number.
And there aren't any t's over here. You guys see that? This thing doesn't depend on t.
Well, isn't that what they're, I know they missed.
Yeah, hang on. We'll get there.
Okay.
We'll answer the question they actually were trying to ask in a second. But the question they've actually asked is what's f? So how do I plug f of minus t in there? Well, it doesn't give a crap what you put in it, right? It just throws that away and gives you a cosine theta plus k, right? So what are the conditions? Yeah, any conditions work. Any a and k according to the question they asked.
Oh, because it doesn't, because there's no T. So
Yeah, this is, I mean, this thing here, right?
It's independent.
This may as well be 2. You guys see that? Like, it doesn't care what t is at all. So it takes your t, it throws it away, and gives you back whatever this thing is. So this is like asking, when is 2, 2? Well, 2 is always 2, right? Doesn't matter. You guys cool with that? The question they were trying to ask is not a lot harder. So the question they were trying to ask is when is f of theta, which is a cosine theta plus k, right? And now that's not 2, right? Like that's not a number, it depends on theta. When is that the same as f of minus theta? And how do I stick minus theta in here? Right, you need to plug in a minus theta here, right? You guys all see that? What's cosine of minus theta though?
Oh, shit.
So here's a unit circle, right? Here's an angle theta. Where's minus theta?
Same
Yes, the angle that goes the same amount but down instead, right? Okay, where's the cosine of theta on this picture?
The same.
Yeah, that's this, right? That's the adjacent side on the triangle. They're the same. They're the same exact thing because they're the exact same spot on the picture, right? So cosine of minus theta is the exact same thing as cosine of theta. When is this true? Yeah, this is always true again.
Does that come from like the oscillating effect?
Yeah, this really is kind of the way that cosine oscillates. Sine doesn't have this property. So in 23, the answer to this is a little bit more complicated because there they're asking about oddness. And in oddness, that vertical movement is going to matter a lot. Like you're not going to be allowed vertical movement specifically. Cool? Questions, things?